Hi guys, don't panic, don't panic. Yes, it's still me. I'm Ceri the Crafter. That's Ceri the Crafter. As you've seen, I've starting my videos with a little bit of a teaser of what we're aiming to complete within this video. So just know it's a new format and I'm trying it out to see what it works. Now, it is actually January the 1st of 2025 and I'm going to be starting with the colour combo for this year. Now, those who don't know what colour combo is, basically it's three colours of anything that have been requested by subscribers. You're allowed to add black, white and a metallic to them. That makes up the colour combo, and in 2025 I'm adding a new element, which is mark making, and the mark that you have to make this month is actually a grid. So somewhere on your final piece there needs to be visibly present grid, whether it's to one grid, two grids, three grids, a whole background of grids, doesn't matter. Mark making is part of it. Now, I have been on and looked through my colours. Now, the colours are, these are all Pantone colours. Now, we've chosen to stick with Pantone colours because Pantone doesn't really have a brand of paint that it's tied to. So it means that you can't just rush out and buy Turquoise 7465C. But by having a visible guideline, you can match your colours as close as you can or get the nearest equivalent. Colour combo has never been about rushing out and getting more paint or getting more supplies. It's about making do with what you have, or maybe colour mixing to the best you can. So I looked at the colours on Pinterest, so I put in these words and the word Pantone and pulled up the colour it was. Now, this purple has actually dried a bit lighter. The purple that Pantone is pretty much a violet colour. The turquoise wasn't far off, and Festive Fuchsia, near enough that colour. I'd say it's probably got a bit more warmth to it than that one, but I was playing around because I wanted something on my desk that I could actually work with as a guide, because I'm not going to use these colours. Not the ones I've mixed here anyway. So let's just say those are the three colours I'm working with. Plus, I'm allowed to have white, black, and I'm going to use gold as a metallic because that just screams that it works for me there. And then we've got the mark making element. Now, as far as mark making goes, I'm going to make myself a little mark making stamp because my aim is I want to work in my grid book this week. And what I'm doing is, these are some of my previous grid pieces, but this time I'm going to push the limits on what may be perceived as a grid journal piece, and I'm going to make the backgrounds on watercolour paper, and then once they're decorated I'm going to stick them onto the page. So not really grid journaling, but maybe grid journaling. I'll give my reasons as I go along. It'll all become very apparent eventually. So first of all, I want to make this mark making element. Now, the mark making element is a grid. Now, I could just come in and doodle a grid, or I could find something like, let's see if I can reach it, something like a bit of plastic mesh and do that. I could do anything like that. But what I want to do is I want to play around with making myself a tool to do it upon. So I grabbed a piece of cardboard. This was from the back of, as you can see, I've already marked this. This, as you can see by there, was from the back of a pad. It may have been a paper or tracing paper, or it was a pad. It's A4 size. Not that the size needs to matter. I chose this because it's a little bit thicker than like cereal card from a cereal box. So if I give you a measurement, I would say that's probably 2 mil, which is probably 1/16 of an inch. Ballpark, guys, ballpark. Now, what I've done, and I'm only going to tell you this because someone is going to ask, this is not set in stone. You do you, I'm doing me. So I've made 4 divisions at 1.5 inches, and then 4 divisions at 1.25 inches, and then I put a line right down the middle. And I'm going to come through, and I'm going to use a metal ruler, and I'm going to use a sharp knife, and I'm literally going to cut these sections off. Now, I don't have a guillotine or a trimmer or something that would cope with this thickness. I know some of you do. So just know I'm going to come in, I'm going to cut all of these and this. So we're not going to waste time watching me do that. Going to pause you while I get on to do that. And here we are. So I've got more of my pieces. That's 2, 4. There's 8 pieces at 1¼ or 32 millimeters wide. And there's 8 pieces at 1½ inches or 4 centimeters wide. Now this is going to become my mark making tool. Now we need a grid, but I don't need to make a grid. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make a mark making tool that can be both parallel lines and a grid. Double the duty, loving that. So this is now basically, I'm going to move those there just so I remember which pile is which. I'm now going to work through these and glue them together. Now I'm going to be using tacky glue. You can use whatever glue you want. You could even use double-sided tape if you want, depends on you. Now, before we even start, let's just say this is not going to be the equivalent of a rubber stamp, a foam stamp, or a clear cling stamp. It's going to be a tool that will give you a grungy, non-consistent, eclectic mark. And that's what it is. It'll give you something different every time you do it. And over time, as paint builds up, it's going to keep changing and modifying to give you a more and more grungy look. That's what I'm looking for. That's what I'm wanting. So I'm going to take my lid off there. This is a glue I'm using. I'm just using a tacky glue here. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to come in and put the glue. Are you going to come out for me? Come on, you came out earlier on. There you go, which is the small one, right? So I'm just going to put glue on here. I'm going to bring the bigger piece. I'm going to move this around ever so slightly. And this is what I'm creating. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create each of these and put them to one side. And the reason I'm doing this, I'm putting the glue on the narrower one. The reason I'm doing this is it's easier to assemble it when things are partially dry. So you can see it's quite a quick process. Give it a bit of a squeeze if you need. If you want, you could even come in with something like a bulldog clip and actually just hold it in place with a bulldog clip, just so you know that it's all nice and secure. Your choice. I'm not doing that until possibly the end. Okay guys, I actually just cut a piece out because it was becoming very boring just watching me glue. So you saw the technique. I've gone through and I now glued all of my pieces together. I now need to repeat it, but there's a trick I need to do this time. I'm still going to glue the small bit, which is the bit, this is going to be our printing edge, okay? So I'm going to come in, I'm going to put glue on here. And then I'm going to pick up the next one, put it on here. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it onto a work surface that is flat to make sure that these edges are in line with each other. Okay, so I'm going to go through and I'm going to do that to each of these and then we'll be back. So as you can see, I've now got 4 pieces and I've got my parallel lines beginning here. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to now stick these 2 together. Again, each time putting it down, making sure that it's level. Things like this where the cardboard is broken, that was just natural wear and tear when I was using the pad. That doesn't bother me. That's actually going to be a really nice little feature. It'll give you more of a grunge look. So I'm going to stick those 2 together, stick these 2 together, and then I'm going to stick the whole thing together and make sure that all of those front edges are actually flush with each other. And then I'm going to set it to one side and we'll use it later. So give me a second, I will glue this and come right back to you. And here we are with it all stuck together. As you can see, all of these edges are all flush with each other. I'm handling it gently because it's freshly glued together. What I would say now is take this, put it to one side and leave it for an hour or 2 to fully set on you. Now, when you're using this, if you feel, oh, it might break apart, okay, that's fine. That's fair worry. You can put tape around here to hold it together because once you've made this, this could last you years. Just look after it. It's fine. So I'm going to put that to one side. I will show you how I use that on the final piece later. So let's put that out of harm's way over there. So let's take a look at what I'm going to do. Now, I said I wanted to use squares of watercolor paper because I'm thinking I want a slightly delicate background. So these squares, I cut them with a die cutting machine only because I had the die cutting machine out. They're 3 inches square by 77 millimeters square, and they're all identical because I didn't cut them by hand, I cut them by my die cutting machine. And what I want to do is I want to use watercolors. Now I'm going to use a watercolor set. Now, I know that I have not got exactly the right colours. Does that bother me? Probably not. But if I look at this, I probably got, that's pretty much a purple. I can probably get away with a mixture of this colour and this colour to make this. And then this, if I use the purple with a bit of that colour in it, I should be fine. Also, I'm looking for a subtle background. I'm not looking for a smack you in the face background, okay? So I'm going to keep that there just as a reminder for me. Let's pull in some watercolour. Not watercolours, I mean, let's just pull in some jars of water. I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pull in palette. Now it's a bit of a dirty palette, but that's fine. I'm okay with that being a dirty palette. I will clean it up as I go along. So I just need to get myself a couple of things. Let's see. Just grab myself a bit of paint, a bit of paper here. Now my aim is to dampen all of these as I go along and then add a splash of colour to each of them so that I've got white space on them. So I've got a wider brush here and I've just got, I think this is, it was number 5. There you go. So I'm going to put some water down in here. There's a pipette. I've got a pipette somewhere. And I'm just going to put some clean water into one of these areas. And then I'm going to come in and I'm going to do the purple first. So I think if I come in and take that purple and I'm going to add a bit of blue to it to take it down to a cooler blue. So I'm going to take some of this blue here. I'm just going to mix myself an amount of it. Now, not every one of these squares needs to have it on there, but I want to make sure I've got enough to do it so that there's a consistent colour all the way through. See, this colour is almost the festive fuchsia colour. But I want to make, I'm doing individually also because I don't really want the colours to bleed into each other. One jar for washing off, a clean jar for picking up more paint. So I'm going to add a bit of blue to this. And that should take it down quite nicely to a darker purple. And I think that will work for me. Now it's going to be lighter when it's on the pieces. I know this, but that's fine with what I'm doing. Just move that to one side now. Now I'm just going to come in with clean water and I'm going to wipe it onto my square of watercolor paper. This is just regular, inexpensive watercolor paper. In a few seconds, I'll see whether I can find the pack to tell you exactly what weight it was, if there was a weight to it at all. So just coming in, I just want bits, and I'm hoping that with the water on here, it'll do some really interesting bleeding effects. For those of you who watch me on a regular basis, you will know I've been on a bit of a watercolor journey the last, well, pretty much over a year now, trying to learn techniques in watercolor. And I found that what I'm finding is I like to use it with other mediums, which is what I'm going to be doing today. I mean, there's going to be some acrylic work on some of these. There's going to be other things that come along. I'm never going to be a die-in-the-world pure watercolorist. Oh, didn't put water on there, did I? Maybe that one's going to have just a bit of a wash. And the reason for that is because I like experimentation. I like playing around with different things. So, And I'm trying to work quickly, not because I'm trying to save time on the video. I'm trying to work quickly because working quickly helps me with my struggle with perfectionism, because the longer I take to do something, the more I procrastinate about stuff. So I'm also not worried about things curling, because as you know, they will eventually dry out and they'll probably uncurl. And also, when I glue them onto the pages of my grid journal, it's not going to become an issue anymore. Just move that over a little bit there. This paint set I'm using is a Paul Rubens paint set that I actually did a review on in 2024. Yeah, it was 2024, this past year. I'll put a link in the description box to it, just in case it is something you like the look of. That was not a bad guess for the amount of paint I needed. I did okay there. Also, if there's one thing I've had to learn, and you've heard me say it 1,000 times already, in fact, it's probably going to go onto my gravestone, is trust the process, trust the process, trust the process. And that's a purposeful thing, because I know at the moment these don't look great. That's actually fine with me. And they're not meant to look great at this stage. Right, what was the next colour? I don't want to put the turquoise into it yet, because if anything is still wet or damp, which it will be, I don't want them to bleed into each other. But what I do want is, I think I'm going to add a little more water to this here and come back in and use just that pure colour, because this is so close to the Festive Fuchsia. I think it's a perfect match. I do think, though, I'm just going to put into it, as I said, a bit of this colour here, just to warm it up slightly, or else it's just going to look like the other one all over again. I don't know the names of these colours, guys. They're just colours. I don't tend to write colour names down, because when I'm looking for something, I'm judging by what I see in front of me, not necessarily by the name of something. Right, set that to one side. Right, so I'll move this out of the way for a second, because I want to come in now and I want to line these all up, and I want to do some splattering on them. And as we know, splattering goes everywhere, so I'm okay with that, though. We can deal with that. I just want to try and contain it as much as I can. Now, before I splatter, I am going to come in. This is just a little travel bottle of water, and I'm just going to spritz the top, just because I'd like these to be wettish, should we say. I'm just going to come in, I'm going to tap it onto my finger, just to give me an interesting background. I know splatter isn't everybody's joy, but you know what? You may not even see these when they're done. Now, for the next bit, I think what I want to do is I want to make sure these are fully dried before I come in with the turquoise, because if I put turquoise on here now, what's going to happen? It's going to go really muddy, because these colours have got a relative amount of red within them. This has got a relative amount of green within it. Red and green make brown. I don't want to go there. So I'm going to pull out my travel hairdryer, and I'm going to dry these completely off before I go on to the next bit. So back in 2 seconds, guys. And I'm back. Now, these are all dried with a hairdryer. Basically, if I wasn't making a video, I probably would have taken a coffee break and let them dry naturally. But as you can see, they're paled back a lot, but I can still see the definition between the two different colours of purple. The purple is there. The Festive Fuchsia is there as well. And don't forget, we have white and we have black within our options of using the colour combo. So you could always use violet and have actually made it into a tint by adding white, or you could have taken violet and added black to it and made it into a shade. So don't beat yourself up if things aren't exactly the colour that you see. These are for inspiration. These are not a challenge. They are purely giving us the opportunity to play with color combinations. So I pulled in another palette because this one's got an empty area on it. So it means I don't have to clean it and waste paint. So I'm just putting some water in here. And now I want to make something close to this color. Now I'm looking here and I'm seeing this color here in the corner, which is probably not the right color. There's a bit of green in this. Let's put some of that in there as well. I don't know. This is going to be a little bit of playtime here because I'm really not sure the exact color I'm going to get. I know that this isn't the right color, but this to me looks as if it's lacking green. And I want to come in, again, not every single piece needs to have all of the colors on, because once these are put into a spread, on a double spread in my grid journal, then we know that that means it's going to be one whole piece. Well, actually wasn't a bad guess. This is quite a vibrant, green, but actually that's not bad. It's a little pale, but you know, I'm fine with that. I can work with it if I know which colors will mix them together. Then I can thicken it up a little bit. I think I'm going to marry that. I'm going to say that's okay. Right, well, that was a lot easier than I thought that was going to be. And I think this is what I've learned over the time, guys. We try to match colours perfectly, but unless you've got the actual paint colour in front of you, we're trying to judge a colour on a computer screen or a mobile device. And it'll depend on how your monitor or your screen is set up as to how that colour is represented. Even if you go and print it off with your printer, it'll depend on how your printer translates an image color into a printed color. So don't beat yourself up. It's not worth it. So I'm just going to bring in, this is just a cork, and I want to come in, I want to put some areas on here that are just fun areas. And because I'm using a cork, it's going to puddle. And I like that because that will give me areas that are going to dry darker. Now, do I want to do all of them? I don't know that I do want to do all of them. I do not want that splash on that, though. My struggle when I've been doing watercolours is to leave white space. It's not natural. For me, it's so not natural. Now, do I want to put this on every one of them? I think I should. I think I should have the colour represented on each one of them. Doesn't have to be a huge amount. And I don't mind going across two of them, and I don't mind things going off the edge either. Because of course we also have the option of white, black, and our metallic. For me, the metallic is gold. And then who knows what will happen when I've actually put them down. Who knows what colour I'm going to stamp in as well. That's another question. Now, I think that's done. I don't want to do any more with that. So again, unfortunately, I'm going to have to let these dry. So now they're all dry. As you can see, they're really subtle. That's what I was going for, remember. So now I'm going to add in, I was going to add the gold now, but I'm going to add the white now. And what I'm going to do is I'm using acrylic paint now because it's mixed media. I'm using acrylic paint. I'm going to use my small 3x5. I think it's 3x5. I always forget the dimensions of this. 3, oh, not bad. 3x5 gel press. Purely to use it as almost like an ink pad. And I'm going to bring in a 4-inch speedball brayer. Now what I'm going to do is I want to stamp these with another mark making tool. This was a lid off a candle. So it's a glass candle jar. This had like a rubber seal in it, and this was a wooden lid. Basically, you take this off and throw it away normally. I tend to keep them. I like them because there's a lip on which I can hold it, but also I get this size circle, or I can stamp with this size circle. This is the size I want. I'm looking for imperfect semicircles or quarter circles on here. So I'm probably going to stamp 2 at a time. So just move those off here. And my technique, I'm hoping, is just going to add some, well, that's a bit of a nasty lump of paint in there. I'm so bad at keeping my paints clean. There you go. Let's just give my fingers a wipe or I'll have white all over the place. So I have managed to keep white on here, which I was trying to do, but I want to make sure there's even more white on here because I've got other paints to go over the top. So just going to brayer this out. And if you don't have a brayer and you don't have a gel press, you could easily just smear some white paint onto a washable surface with like a store card or a credit card or something like that. Now, looking at these, I want to make sure I want the white to go in there. So I'm going to use the smaller part and I'm just picking up paint. As I said, not looking for perfect. Press it. I'm going to hold it in place for a few seconds and then gently peel it off. And see what we've done? We've given ourselves a real subtle area on there to work with. And that's good. That's actually what I was hoping to do because we've got more to go on here yet. So again, put it on. Now, as the paint builds up on here, it will release more onto the backgrounds. See, more that time. I'm probably going to have to put more paint on here before I'm completely finished. Right, this one I quite like to have that whole area there. There you go. And I don't mind a ridge like that. That's more of that texture I was looking for. I think this one could do with a little something off to one side. I'm trying not to stamp over the turquoise. Don't ask me why, it just doesn't feel like I want to do it. Let's have that one and that one. Can you see? You can see. That didn't have a lot on it, so let's just put a bit more on there. And actually, what I'm thinking about, was it this one? This was the one that's not very dark either. There you go, a little more paint. I don't want to add too much paint to this area because otherwise I'm going to have to try and clean it up on something else. Now, as far as what I'm doing with the gold, I'm unsure at the moment. Let's put quite a big one on here. I'm unsure at the moment how I want the gold to be represented. This is quite a, let's see if I can get almost a whole one on here. How I want the gold to be represented. I have gold paint pens. I actually have gold paint, obviously. I've still got black. And I'm probably going to come back in after these are fully dried, maybe with some markers as well, just to enhance them even further. Okay, right. So this, I'm just going to leave that as is, put it back in my drawer, it'll dry, and then that texture on there will actually give me more texture in the future every time I use it. Right, clean up time. Give me a couple of seconds, just go clean the decks down and I'll be back. So these are relatively dry now. Everything's nicely tidied up. And I think before I go in to put the gold in, because I've got an idea of how I want to put the gold, I want to put something dark in here as almost a focal point. Now, I found this washi tape a long time ago. I want to say I might have got it on Amazon. And it's all purple butterflies. And I think I'm going to come in and I'm going to put pieces of this onto the grids. I don't know that I'm going to do it on every single piece, but I'm going to tear pieces off and stick them down. So let's get that off my fingers because it's going to annoy me. Get some magazine page in, and I'm just going to use regular glue stick. Currently, we're still pretty much paper on paper, so I'm not worried about that. So I might tear one butterfly off here and just pop him somewhere. Or her, let's not be sexist about our butterflies. Anyone who has problems with glue stick not working, I would say, are you putting enough on there? Because I have found that whenever I'm working with anyone, they go, oh, glue stick never works for me. And then I go, well, can you show me how much you're putting on? They never put enough on. So I'm quite heavy-handed. So there you go. So just things like that. I don't know whether every single piece needs it. I quite like that. Let's take that bit off there. Can I get two on? I can get two on. So let's take that butterfly away from there. Which of these could accommodate a two? Probably that one. I do like using my washi. Someone did suggest a video, by the way, which I'm going to probably do, to be honest. Oh, if this doesn't fold over on me, they asked whether I can make a video of the different ways in which I use washi. And I'm like, okay. I use washi for so many different things, but I'm okay with that. Slide that over a bit. And what I do is when that's dry, I will trim off the edges. Make sure that's pressed down. As I said, I don't want a million butterflies on here. That's a bit light. Let's stick them on the bookshelf. I've got a bookshelf over here, and any things that are not quite what I want, if it's washi or tape, I stick it to there and then I use them for future projects. So I quite like this butterfly here. I'm being a bit weird-handed today. Right. I think this will do nicely on this one. Lob it a little underneath there. As you can see, guys, I'm not really caring how much I'm doing. I like that one there. I'm just doing bits that feel right for me. I think we're going to have another doubler. Actually, no. Let's make that a single. Yeah, I like my washi. I use my washi a lot. I use it in art journals. I use it on ephemera. I use it in my glue book. So yes, I think I'll do one of my videos that's like, I don't want to say it'll be a top 10, but it'll be 10 uses for washi tape or something like that. I need to give it a bit of thought, but the lady, I think, who asked for it may have been a newbie, new to the craft, so it's always good to help those who are new, because that's where we all started. Right, I just wanted to put this last butterfly because it's looking a little lonely. 1, 2, 3, 4. Right, where would you like to go? No. I think potentially this one. So, and why am I putting the washi on at this stage? I'm putting it on at this stage because I'm about to do marks over the top with the gold, and we'll be using other colors as well. And what it will do is, because the washi is already on here, when I put the grid on, if I lined one of the lines along the top edge of that, then it'll make it disappear entirely. But this is not the lid for this, Griffiths. Get a grip, boy. So I'm just going to come in just to snip off the areas that I said needed trimming. Why are you cutting? Your Tim Holtz scissors, you have to cut. And there was one other I thought went over the edge. Or maybe it didn't. Could have sworn there was another one that went over the edge of the page. Never mind, we'll find it if we find it. So now I've got my pieces here. As I said, I want to add the gold, and I think I want to add the gold using our new stamping device. Because I think if I do the lines this thick in black, it's going to so dominate these, and that's not what I'm aiming for. So I think I want to come in and do this with, I know I want to come in and do this with gold. I'm just going to grab a bit of paper here just so I can do a tester to see what this works like. So, well, luckily enough, it fits on there. Now, this hasn't been created long enough for all the glue to dry, so I'm risking it a little bit. So as I said, with yours, I would say leave it overnight. I may come in and put tape around this afterwards just to make sure it's fully secure, because I don't want to ruin something when I can use it. So I'm going to move all of these over because I want to do these individually. This is the gold I'm using, Iridescent Precious Gold by Pebeo, one of my favorite golds. Now, I don't want too much on the gel plate. I don't want huge clumps of paint going up in between the pieces of here. But if I come in and lift it off, there's one load of lines. Guess what? We've made a grid stamp and we made a parallel line stamp, and it's grungy. I'm happy with that. So I'm going to come in, and as I see fit on some of these, I may or may not add something, or I may. I'd like to keep them. See, that's just enough. Oh, actually, I want to put another piece in there. There you go. So see, I've got the makings of a grid. I'm just going to put them up there so it's out of my way. Now, on this one, there's that line. So I'm going to come in, and if I've got enough gold on here, I should be able to stamp across there. I don't mind it going over the butterfly a little bit. Actually, I think I might like a little bit of gold on the top as well. So again, just giving me my bits of feature. A little bit more gold on there. Right, this has got quite an expanse of space. So just come in. So I think what I might do, guys, because this year is all about mark making with Colour Combo, is I might see whether each month I might come up with another. Well, there'll be a different shape each month anyway. That's a written, because we're not going to do the same one every single month. But I might come up with different ways to make mark making tools. Just a thought. Don't hold me to it. As I said, I'm not 100% certain, but I like the fact that we're making something out of a recycled product. And this was just, as I said, the back of a sketchbook or something like that. See, the reason I wanted all those flat is because if you don't, they don't touch the card or the surface on which you're working. So we've pretty much covered everything so far. We've got the purple, we've got the turquoise, we've got the festive fuchsia, we've got the grid, we've got black. No, we haven't got black. We've got white. We will be putting black on these at some point. The black's probably going to take the form of being pen work. So just focusing on that for a second. I just want to block in there. And I have a piece right down the side of there. Right, so those are all done. Now, if you're worried that your newly made stamp is going to start building up with paint, all you need to do is just get yourself a paintbrush and run the paintbrush up and down in between. And what that will do is it will smooth out any of the paint that's trapped in those grooves, and you won't have a problem. Okay? Right, so all of this is nicely ready to go and dry. This is the book I'm going to put them into, which is my grid journal. I need a few more things done before I can stick these down, and they're going to be my finishing touches. So I've been through my acrylic paint pens, and I was quite lucky enough to find this is Violet by Posca. That's a pretty good match as far as I'm concerned. This colour is whatever colour this is, because it doesn't actually say. It's one of the Sharpie creative markers, and if you look, that's pretty much a perfect match. When it came to the Festive Fuchsia, this is actually, I think it's raspberry. raspberry. I think that's a pretty good match. And then I pulled out a black Posca because I'm going to need one. So what am I going to do first? Well, first of all, I'm going to move those over to one side and decide where in this it's going to go. And I think that's just, where are my other pages? I don't think it's going to do any damage to that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take my black Posca. This is a 0.5 or a 2.5 millimeter. Let's put a piece of something to protect me catching the edges of other pages. Can you see that? Yeah, you can. And then I'm literally going to freehand lines onto my page. And what this will do is it will connect the design. And no, it's not meant to be neurographic art. That's something I don't quite get on with, this neurographic art. I'd quite like this line to be a little thicker. So it didn't work for me. Right. Do I want... So I'm having a thoughtful moment. If I was to outline those, would they be outlined in black or would they be outlined in... Let's outline these in black. Let's move that to the top. Now, what I want to do before I outline anything in black is I'm going to come in and then with this raspberry coloured pen, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use it to draw in the edges of those circles that we stamped. And I'm doing that because now all the different colours are represented on there properly, whereas before I thought they were a bit weak. So I have to remember that a Posca pen does take a little bit of time to dry when it's gone over acrylic paints. So don't be smudging it with your fingers is what I'm saying. I'm going right over the top of the gold as well. Yeah, so it goes all the way around that butterfly. Couldn't quite work out where it went. This is a bit hard to see. Probably not the smoothest of lines I've ever drawn, but you know what, it's fine. And this one goes by here. Okay, I'm all right with that. Now, I want to come in and I want to put a black line on the edge of each of these. Now, there are different ways of doing it. You could easily have put this down, put a ruler on it and draw the black line on there. I tend to find if I do that, it's the paint sort of slips underneath. So I'm going to take a reasonably wide marker, which is the one that I did the initial thing with. And I'm literally going to put my finger on the back and draw along the edges. I'm not looking for a thick border. I'm just looking for a faint defining edge. And I'll show you one that's done and one that's not done next to each other in a moment. And you'll see what I mean. So this one is and this one isn't. And it is just subtle enough that it gives it a nice crisp outline. So I'm just going to do that. So here I am back again with the pages we prepped. Just want to see whether that went through. Nope, paint pen didn't go through to the previous page. Quite happy about that. Now, I'm going to work now on how I'm going to set up these pages now. I do have a template which I made out of like a bit of thin card, which when I'm doing my grid journal, I put it on my page and then I come in and I draw around the inside, and that's how I set up my grid pages. Anyone who's seen me doing my grid journaling knows that's the way. I'm going to actually use this as my template for where to place these down. And I've made the squares slightly smaller than the apertures on purpose, because then I can just come in and centralize the stuff and then lift off the other pieces. How many butterflies I've got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's fine. I'm trying not to have these curved bits mirrored on anyway, or joined up so they look like they belong to each other. So I'm just going to lift this off because I'm not gluing them down just yet. I want to see what the overall effect is, because I might want to swap things around. So actually, I don't mind that. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to stick them down. Now, I'm not going to show you me sticking them down because I'm going to have to get in there to look directly down on it. But what I'm going to tell you is the way I'm going to do it. So I'm going to take one of these, and on the back, I'm going to use Art Glitter Glue, which is this brand, and I'm going to do a line of Art Glitter Glue around the outside edge and put some glue stick in the middle, purely to hold it in place so I can move it around a little bit. And I'm going to be doing that with my template in place and trying to centralize them up within the square, which is why I can't do it with you watching me. And I'm back. And I must admit, sticking these down was a little trickier than I considered it going to be. However, I'm used to doing the grid directly in my journal and not sticking them in afterwards. So there you go. So I'm now going to take a 08 Unipen fine liner, and I want to go round the teal pieces. And I'm going to use the outline, which is an irregular outline of the paint splotch itself. And I'm going to do that with all of them. And I don't mind if I'm going across the top of another colour. It just adds to the different layer of it. But as you can see, it just makes those elements pop out and intensifies the turquoise colour. Now I am being a bit risky here in that I'm not sure my paint is 100% dry. And I would always recommend, if you're using a pen over paint, always make sure the paint is fully dry, because if you don't, you could end up damaging your pen. So I'm just fingers crossing that it's going to be okay. Some of these look like little tiny brains floating around. It's amazing what your eye can see when you look. It's like cloud watching when you look into shapes of paint and you see different things. Now, where there's an opaque line, like there, I'm actually not going to go all the way around it. I'm going to leave the opaque line cutting through it. See, can you see the difference now? Bang, not bang. And I was looking for more impact, and we haven't finished yet, so I know we're going to get there eventually. I'm happy with the process so far. As I said, not done this before, just an idea in the back of my mind about how I wanted to do the colour combo this month. And as I said, colour combo, I launch it on my Facebook group, Facebook page, which is Griffiths Creative Designs. I also have been asked to launch it on my YouTube community tab, which is at Ceri Griffiths. And the other home of Colour Combo is the Makers of Mixed Media Art and Artist Facebook group, which there is a link in the description box for that, guys. And that's the group that is run by PM Artist Studio, who I design for. So I'm very happy with that. Colour Combo has become a part of my life over the last 3 years, and we're going into the 4th year, which I think is amazing for an activity like this. And I'm still surprised by some of the colour combos, because I've done every one of them so far, and just to see what we've come up with is amazing. So right, I've got that all in there. Now I need to think, have I got the colours dominant enough? So the purple or the violet, it is in there, it's in the butterflies. Could potentially use more, and I have a pen I can do it with. The turquoise, I think there's enough turquoise in there. I mean, if I was going to do any more turquoise, it might be just a couple of dots somewhere, so I'm not sure. This sort of festive fuchsia is in there. Again, it's not huge, so I think that's something else I could probably address as well with this colour. So first of all, how would I like to introduce more of the violet? Now remember, mark making can be freehand drawing as well. So some will call it doodling, some may not. I'm just going to come in and I'm just going to do small patches or areas of circles. Occasionally. Like, see, there's a gap down there. I think I could put a row of dots in there. Not dots, circles. And I'm not trying to draw neat circles. And why is that? Because I can't draw a neat circle. So I'm just embracing the whole, it'll be what it is. Let's see. This one could do with something as well. I've been on several journeys in the last couple of years. Doodling, grid journaling, just lots of different things. Watercolouring especially, because I've not really done watercolouring before now. So I'm enjoying where it's going. And I think my biggest mistake when I started all of those was I was trying to create what I saw other people creating, when in fact it's more about creating what I want to create using the techniques attributed to things like watercolor, doodle and stuff like that. So for me, so I'm spinning this around, probably making me feel sick. Right, I think there's enough violet in there now. Now, what do I want to do? I wonder. I think I'm going to come in with the Sharpie. I think they're called creative acrylic pens. I can't remember, but I think that's what they were called. And I think I'm going to come in and put a line on the inside of each of these lines, because I know they're incredibly opaque, so it's going to create a really nice solid line there. That's better, that's bringing it to life. I knew I shouldn't have fiddled with that. It's just trying to get my hand in with this spiral bound is just making it a little tricky to draw a smooth line. Yes, that's bringing that to life, I feel. put my hand in the wet paint. Last one. Okay, now this line here, I kind of went too far over, so I'm just going to come back in with the original colour and just re-establish that line over a little bit. Because I don't know about you, but if something goes wrong on a page, that's the only thing I can see. Right, now one last thing I want to do, I want to make sure those are all dry. They look dry to me, is I'm going to come in, and again, I'm going to come in with my 08, and I'm just going to do my version of just funky little writing into these round spaces, just because it'll give another area of texture. I'm not filling the whole thing in. I'm just doing little tiny bits. It doesn't need to be anything. No one can ever read it. It could be my shopping list or my laundry detergent or whatever it could be, but it just gives something to draw the eye into those areas. Down here just needs to be partial line. And this is another one of those elements that will tie everything together, so there'll be a coherent uniformity amongst this. Almost remember to sign it as well. I think just by here will do nicely. Not everything needs to have War and Peace written into them. So I have to double check, do I date it? I do date it, right. Actually, I think I'm going to go downwards on this one. Not something I normally do, but it is what it is. And if I've done down there, I might do down here, so it's not just in one place. I wonder whether if someone ever finds either this video or any of my artwork that's got this writing in, if they find it, if it lasted that long, in 100 years' time, would they wonder whether I'm using some different language? It does make me smile. Right, I think as I've done vertical there and there, I'd like to do vertical here as well, just to carry it across to the other page. And I'm going to sign it as Jan 2025, and that's the first time I've written that. I think I'm going to call that done. I could keep fiddling and fiddling and fiddling, but you know what? I'm happy with that. That's an interesting something. I like the lines in the background. They connected it all together. Have we got the colours? We're supposed to have violet. We're supposed to have turquoise. Supposed to have festive fuchsia, which we've got here, 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 and here. Not sure there's actually do I need to put more of them in? Yes, maybe festive fuchsia does need a bit more of a feature. Let's just do some dots. Doesn't have to be dots everywhere, but if I do 3 lines of 3, that will be enough for me. Not that there's any police going to tell me that I haven't got enough of each colour on here. At the end of the day, this is my activity. This is my art. Yes, I think that's done. No, I don't. This needs it here. Right, we're now done. So we've got all the colours in here. We've also got black, we've got white, and we've got the metallic in here. I'm going to call that done, guys. That's my colour combo, the first one of 2025. Wow, I'm excited by that. So, I'm Ceri the Crafter, that's C-E-R-I the Crafter, and I will see you next time. And don't forget, I am now putting chapters into each of the videos, so you'll see the breakdown of the chapters in the description box below. Look forward to seeing you in the next video. Goodbye now.